Hello and welcome to Loving Me, Myself, and Life with me, Jody Misiak. Today, I want to share with you how I almost let my idea of others and their beliefs prevent me from living my dreams. And as I'm not blaming anybody but myself here, but we can get caught up in other people's thoughts and beliefs, and that can prevent us from living the life we're truly meant to live. So get cozy, get comfy, grab one of your favorite beverages if you want, and just relax and hang out with me today. Or if you're driving, be safe and enjoy your ride to wherever you're going. So in 2020, I finally realized what my heart wanted. I was talking for years and years with my husband about moving, and we always want to go somewhere warmer, and we just weren't sure how. And I'm not going to share too much into this part of it because I've shared many a times with this story. This episode is all about how I almost talked myself out of living my dream. And so I finally figured out what I wanted, right? And it was to move to British Columbia in Canada. So at the time we were living in Ontario. I was born in Ontario. I grew up in Ontario, and I didn't even really move around in Ontario. I was born in Kitchener, and my parents live half an hour away from there. So I was born in the hospital there and then moved, and we were living in Waterloo, which is literally on the border of Kitchener. So I really didn't go very far. Now, I did go to Toronto for college for 2 years, but I didn't go further than that because I always had this idea that I always needed to be there, that I was planted there. I was born there. I'm going to live there. And yes, I'd have sprinkles of thoughts where I'm like, maybe I could live here or maybe I could move there. I remember when I was in my 20s, I was actually trying to figure out how I could do a working holiday where I could go to Australia for 6 months and work and live. But I had all these student loans and I just couldn't figure it out. I think if I didn't have the fear behind it, I might have been able to figure it out because I believe anything is possible when you stop telling yourself it isn't. It's one of my big, famous, awesome quotes that I love to keep reminding myself. The thing is, I was stuck in other people's beliefs. So here's the thing. Here's a quick version of what happened. My husband and I, for I don't even know how many years it was, I would be looking at Hallmark movies and I was like, oh my gosh, I love the scenery. So I Google it and it was filmed in BC. And then I'd be like, oh, where and what? And I was just had this romantic idea that maybe it'd be fun to live there with not even making it real, just, fantasizing really at this point. And then down the line, I realized I could not stand the winters or the summers in Ontario anymore because they were extremes and they were all over the place. And I'm like, I kind of over it. And we slowly just found our way until I didn't. So we had this idea and I finally figured out where in BC I wanted to move to. Again, because of a Hallmark movie. I know it sounds fake, but it's totally true. We were sitting on the couch one night in September 2019. And the beginning of this movie opened up and I was like, wherever this is filmed, we're moving there. And I said it was so much conviction and so much like knowing. Yet deep down, I was kind of like joking. And literally, we moved to that location, like the vicinity of that location, a year later in September 2020. Now, let me back up a little bit because I wanted you to know that it's a happy ending. But in the middle, it was a hot mess. Oh my goodness, hot mess. So, September 2019. I say this thing jokingly, but at the same time, so knowingly, I just knew in my heart that's where we're meant to be. So, and I did my research and things like that. I did the things on the side that were, without action, could have just been more fantasy. Where I Googled, where is it filmed? What kind of house, what are the houses like there? What's the lifestyle there? What kind of things do they have? Because we have 2 children. So it was getting this idea, but it could have just ended there. But come January 2020, I wrote down my goals for the year, and that was one of them, moving to BC on the coast. And then I wrote down 3 steps. And I've shared this with you on the podcast, I'm pretty sure before, where I just wrote down, talk to our realtor and see like, how do we sell our house? And then look into how do we buy a house in BC? And where do we begin? And it just kind of like the moment we talked to our realtor, it started. It just like got the ball rolling in a really fast way. So we're like, boom, boom, boom. We talked to our realtor. All of a sudden, we have a plan. Our house was going to go on the market in March 2020. So we had, we fixed things up. We cleaned things up. We painted, or we actually hired painters because we were just too busy. We did this and this. And then there was this thing that was happening in the world. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Life changed in an instant. Our kids, or my daughter was in grade 1 and my son in daycare. And we were just so excited. We're like, after March break, we're gonna put our house up on the market. Well, my daughter and my son were actually, I think my son was in daycare still, but my daughter was home for spring break. Well, what we call in Ontario, March break, but here on the coast is spring break. Anyways, all of a sudden, after the break, there was no school. And we're like, no, what's going on? And then we talked to our realtor who's like, this is not a good time to put a house on the market because there was just so many unknowns. So I had a moment of like, no, I finally just made my dreams a reality. Like I know what I want. I know what I need to do to get there. And I was so upset that life was throwing me a curveball. Huge curveball where I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to move. Like I have these ideas. And there was some crying. I'm not going to lie, like super crying, super upset with how the world was just kind of not going the way I planned. It's like, I have a dream, I have a goal, I have a plan, until the plan didn't work out anymore. Now, obviously, the plan at some point worked out because I am recording this episode in our beautiful home on the coast in BC. So, what happened next? Well, I think it was only 2 months. Like, we kind of just kept going. We were on survival mode, right? 2 young kids at home, trying to homeschool, trying to have our younger one nap while our older one was trying to learn. Not a fun combo. My son was still napping like 2 to 3 hours a day until he realized that his older sibling was not. And then all of a sudden, this kid that really could have used a nap was not having a nap. Anyways, so our household, like many with children or anything in general, we were just surviving. We're just trying to piece things together. And we were in Ontario and no one really knew what to do. We were like, we have a plan. Like TVO Kids, thankfully, had a program and I could use it in the morning to kind of get my kids just sitting there so I could enjoy a cup of coffee, catch my breath, and they were learning something at the same time. Then we learned like, hey, maybe our oldest should go on a bike ride so our son can nap. And we found a flow, as messy as it looked, as messy as it felt. And then I believe it was about 2 months later, we finally are like, okay, we can do this. So it's May, and we finally put our house on the market. And we get out of the house every day so people can see the home. And it was this huge thing. We have 2 cats that had to roam around. So we leave for the day and come home at night. And it was just a really weird thing living in a staged house. And, we got an offer. I think it was like the day of, but we were taking offers for a week to see which one we wanted to accept. Anyway, that's besides the point. As the house is up for sale, we have that week of getting out of the house and we're like, well, where are we going next? Because our big thing is we were going to sell first, see what we got, and then, figure it out from there. We didn't really want to buy before we knew like something else before knowing. Anyways, again, lots of fear going on. So I'm having all this time and I'm like, at this moment, in May, I couldn't even go and stay on the coast in BC. Hotels weren't open. Things weren't open. They weren't taking anybody, any visitors, and it was just a hot mess. So I'm like, maybe we move up north in Ontario. Maybe like just somewhere near the water. Maybe we go there. So I spent hours and hours researching homes up north. I love it up on the Bruce Peninsula. It's one of my favorite places in the world, especially in Ontario itself. Like it's my favorite happy place in Ontario. So I'm like, maybe we go up there somewhere. But then I kept coming back to one of the biggest reasons we're moving out to the coast is that we don't love the winters. And the further you go up north in Ontario, the more winter you have. And then I'm like, why do I want to stay close? So that was the big question I had to ask myself. Why? Why do I want to stay close? Because I had so much fear preventing me from doing this. It was so hard. I was like, well, I don't want to move that far away from my family. If we move up north, we're only a few hours away. And I just kept coming back to my family, not wanting to disappoint them, not wanting to hurt them, and not wanting to live so far away. And that's what was keeping me stuck. And then eventually, like, I wrestled with it. I talked to my husband to no end about this and like, I don't know what to do. And oh, what a sweetheart he is. He supported me through all the ups and downs and everything. And I had to reconnect to myself. I had to be like, what is it that we want? What is it that I want? And then we as a couple want. What's the best for our little unit family? And why are we doing it in the first place? And then I had to just take a leap. So I actually stopped talking about where we're moving or what we were doing, because every time I talked to my family, of course they were for us living in Ontario still. They were so happy when I said, oh, you know what, maybe we should just move north for now in Ontario and we'll just stay around. And I even thought about renting out in BC. I'm like, maybe we rent first, see if we like the area, so we weren't tied down to anything. But deep down, I knew I needed roots. I needed to know that this is happening and we're there and we're making a commitment. Because deep down, that's what I wanted. And once I released the fear, or at least kind of moved through it, because let's be honest, there was still fear. The moment, even moving out here, there was still fear. I had to push through the fear and do it anyways. So in June, I came to BC. I hopped on a plane and flew to Vancouver and then jumped on a little seaplane and came to the coast and looked at, I think, 19 homes because I was so fearful. I think the home we moved into was one of the first houses I saw. But because I was so afraid of the move, that I was making a mistake that would impact my whole family, my kids, my husband, and my parents, my siblings, my grandma, everybody. I'm like, what about if I screw up? What about if I screw up and I fall flat on my face and I don't like it? Or that we just like have a horrible time. And to this day, I remember when I was having one of these moments of fear before I even went out to the coast, because I've never been to British Columbia before this. I just fell in love with it via videos. I know. I am interesting that way. Anyways, it's a story. But it's a real one. Anyways, I remember my husband saying, once you get there, you're never going to want to leave. And he is so right. So I'm looking at these homes. I'm away from my kids and my husband. I'm on a different time zone. It's 3 hours behind. So it was great at the beginning. I was waking up 6 o'clock going, woohoo, like, let's start the day. Let's go looking at houses. I'd look at houses. I'd come home. I'd eat some supper or lunch, whatever it was at that time. And then I'd call my husband and talk to the kids. And I just was like drowning in fear. And I remember sobbing on the phone. I was I was away from my kids. I had to make this big decision for our whole family. It was my dream that my husband was just really supportive of, but I was the one making the decision, and it was a lot. And I had conversation after conversation with my husband. And then a song popped in my head. Have a little faith in me. So I looked up the song by Mandy Moore and I put it on and played it. And I sang and I cried and I realized I needed to have a little faith in the universe and some faith in myself for listening to my heart and really just and have faith that everything would work out and that I was making the right decision by following my heart, by following my dreams. We can get so caught up and so lost in what other people think is best for us or in their own thoughts. Like, none of my family have really moved too far away from where they grew up. And that's totally okay. But that's the place I was coming from. That's where I thought I had to stay. So when we follow other people's beliefs or thoughts, we can miss out on our own dreams. Life is way, 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 way too short. I feel like there's a song coming on here. No, way, way, way too short to live somebody else's dream. Today, I encourage you to look at your life and be like, where in your life have you maybe gotten caught in somebody else's belief or thoughts? With no judgment. There is no judgment. Like I said, I had so much fear. And let me come back to actually, because I don't feel like I finished the story. I got right into the lesson instead of the story. So I'm looking at homes, listening to Have a Little Faith in Me. And, I think I was in BC for 5 days. Then I come home to my family. We still didn't settle on a house yet. I was like back and forth. Our realtor showed us a few more things online, some online videos. And I'm like, okay. Turns out it was, like I said, one of the first homes I looked at. But I think we put a few different offers in before that. Because I'm like, I want to, have here or here. I had like different ideas. I was still not 100% sure in my dream and my abilities. And I really feel like the universe was like literally had my back. The whole have a little faith in me really, really was so true. I had to let go of my fears, stop them from driving the show, and just allow. So then we finally got our home. I believe it was actually on my husband's birthday. So it was in July that we got the news that we got the offer. And we're like, yes. And then we're like, oh boy, we need to be out of our home by September. So it was a whirlwind of events. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be completely honest, actually. I had some gut issues. I had like some stress issues. The packing, we'd stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning. We lived off fudgesicles. It was really insane. Because of the times we didn't have a lot of people in our home. It was a weird time. For sure. It was not how we planned on doing anything. We planned on having the kids at school and daycare while we packed the house and got everything situated. My plan was pushed out by a few months because our goal was always to move to BC at the end of the school year, so end of June or early July, so we could spend the whole summer there on the coast. But again, life has other plans sometimes. So we ended up getting there in September, just in time for school to start. And it was really, really good. It all worked out. I, to this day, keep thinking like, oh, the universe did have my back. Like, we're in a beautiful neighborhood with very supportive, loving, caring neighbors. Like, it's just an amazing, and I always played it in my head, like, this could have played out differently. It might have still worked out, but I just feel like the universe had a plan, and I just had to let things flow instead of force things. So again, I really encourage you to look at how you might be following other people's thoughts and beliefs. And then also, sometimes we grab onto things and try and control the outcome. Try to control which direction things are going to go. It's good to have a direction, but how it's going to fully play out might be different than what you think. Like mine was, 2 months, actually about 2 months behind what I originally had scheduled. Now let's go back to that for a second, because I almost I thought I was going to throw in the towel altogether. But I'm so glad that I was just like, okay, 2 months, like everything's back to normal. Well, not normal. Nothing was normal then, but back to like having houses on the market. Things, people had an idea of what to do and all that. And I was like, okay, let's do it still. I had 2 months to talk myself out of following my dreams. I had 2 months to come up with a different plan. And thank goodness I had an amazing, amazing husband beside me to know that, like, no, this is my dream. And when I had too much fear and it was running the show, he was there to be like, no, it's okay. We got this. We can do this. So this is me today being there for you and saying, you got this. Whatever direction you want to go in life, you've got this. And when fear comes at you, it's not about shoving it away or being like, no, you're not. Like, this isn't a sign that you're not supposed to do something. It's about moving through it. It's seeing it and be like recognizing it and moving through it anyways. Now, there's certain fears, like, that keep us alive and things like that, that you definitely need to follow. But if your heart is saying one thing and then fear comes in and says, no, you're not good enough, or you don't deserve this, or who do you think you are, or you're worried about how other people are going to react, pause and figure out where that fear is coming from. Love is so much stronger than fear. So I had to connect to the love that I had for this dream of mine, for like knowing that this is what I truly wanted. And it's been over 4 years now, and I am grateful every single day that we made the move when we did, for one. And actually, there's times where I'm like, I wish I would have done it sooner, but you can't go back. But I'm so, so grateful that I did, because with the housing the way it is now, I don't even know what it would have looked like if we waited any longer. And then also if we rented, we might not even be able to live here anymore because things are all over the place. Renting and bought like houses, it got really messy there. So I'm just so grateful I listened to my heart when I did. And then it's allowing the universe to support you through it. So it's not that you do nothing. You're like, oh, I want this. I have this dream. I do nothing. And, the universe will take care of me. No, it's having a plan and then allowing the plan to kind of unfold in its unique, organic beautifulness that it's meant to. And that might just mean that it looks a little different than your plan. And that's okay. It's time to embrace who you are so you can live an empowering life you love. And I mean you, not somebody else's life, but yours. Your dreams, your hopes, and your awesomeness. When you're living the life that you're meant to live, it feels so good. That doesn't mean that things don't go a little backwards and sideways and all over the place. But you still have that foundation of like, I'm heading in the right direction and it feels good. And I want you to feel that too. Thank you so, so much for being here. I am so grateful for you. And if you found this helpful, please share the love. And don't forget, go sign up for the free masterclass. It's only a half an hour long, so you can fit it into any part of your day. And it is just a download. So you don't have to sign up and wait days and days to go join the masterclass. It is yours right away. And you can get right to embracing who you truly are. And you can fit it into your life on your own pace. Thanks again for being here. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye for now.